Welcome back to Logitech. Today we have another motherboard from ASRock B560 Steel Legend. This motherboard is made for Intel 10th Gen and 11th Gen processor. Also, B560 motherboard already support memory overclocking. Well, this motherboard costs around 137 bucks, and the M model B560M Steel Legend costs around 1 to 7 bucks. Let's see the feature of this motherboard first. Up to 4800 MHz memory overclocking, 3 M.2 SSD slot, 1 M.2 Wi-Fi slot. The BFB feature support up to 200 watt power limit bypass. Compared to B560M Steel Legend, it only support up to 170 watt. The PCB also has 3 copper layer. Usually, the normal PCB only has 2 copper layer. The last important feature of this motherboard is the polychrome RGB. It has RGB at the chipset at the motherboard. Now, let's unboxing this motherboard. Two manual books and DVD driver. I believe no one will use this DVD driver. They will just download it from internet. 2 SATA cables. An I/O panel. Steel Legend stickers, cable straps, M.2 screws. Oops, we still have one more Steel Legend keychain. These are the 10 power base with DRMOS power design. Only one 8-pin power input. For DDR4 slot up to 4800 MHz. M.2 SSD Gen 4 with heatsink. You can move this heatsink to the second M.2 SSD. We also have N.2 Wi-Fi slot. Another M.2 support Gen 3 and SATA, same as the second slot. USB-C front panel, but this one doesn't support Thunderbolt. We have 4 SATA slots facing to the side. And also 2 SATA ports facing up. Let's look at the back panel now. We have the ancient PS2, 2 USB 2, HDMI DisplayPort, 1 USB-C, 4 USB 3, 2.5G LAN, audio jacks. There is nothing at the bottom except the RGB. Now let's take a look at the BIOS. In the easy mode, you can change your RAM XMP profile, check your storage configuration, change your fan setting, and some flashing tools. At the OC Tweaker menu, you can see this DFB feature. In CPU setting, you can change your CPU ratio, BLCK OC, DAU boost, and also your short and long duration power limit. In memory setting, you can change your XMP profile or overclocking your RAM and adjust the timing. In voltage configuration, you can change your CPU voltage mode from stable to overclock mode. You can also manually set your CPU voltage. However, I just use the offset mode and set it minus 50 mV. In advanced chipset setting, you can turn on and off the resizable bar and also set PCIe Express link speed. From the review just now, I can say that this ASRock B560 Steel Legend is very great value for only $137. The reason is, this motherboard is already support 200-watt power limit bypass. The M-ATX model only support up to 170 watt. It's not bad, but this one is better. With 200-watt power limit bypass, you can use Core i7 or Core i9 processor to the maximum performance. Example, if you want to use Core i9 10900F like this one I have, this processor consume around 170 watt at the sustained load I test before in Cinebench R23. So with this B560 Steel Legend, you can fully use the boost clock of this processor in the sustained load. So example, this processor boost clock 10 core is 4.6 GHz. So you can use 4.6 GHz full in Blender or like Cinebench R23. Well, if you using the something like ASRock B560 Pro 4, which limited to 125 watt only, this processor boost clock will only around 4.1 to 4.2 GHz at the sustained load. This motherboard also have 3 SSD slots. However, the first M.2 slot is only can be used if you use 11th gen processor. So this one you can only use for 11th gen processor only. However, if you use 10th gen processor, you still can use the second and the third slot. And you can move this I/O plate, this NVMe heatsink to the second one. So this one is movable to the second slot. This motherboard also have the M.2 Wi-Fi slot. So if you want to add another Wi-Fi card, you don't need to buy a PCIe Wi-Fi card or USB Wi-Fi card. You can just buy the cheap EX Wi-Fi, the M.2 one. I think the price is only around 15 bucks. You can get the EX200 Wi-Fi M.2 and you can put in here. If you like RGB, it has beautiful RGB at the motherboard and chipset. So for me, I think this motherboard is very good for the price. Not only because of its ATX and its RGB, but because it also has 200-watt power limit bypass. So any processor of Intel you can use in here. Maybe except if you want to overclock the K series for i7 and i9, the sustain load will be above 200 watt. But if you only use the non-K version or the K version without overclocking, this motherboard is enough. It's already sufficient to supply power for your CPU. Okay, I think that's all for me now. If you like this video, please press like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.